So, after a while, being in Tennessee, being in the Southern Wrestling Association, you began feuding with Billy the Prince Rampart. What was that like?
Oh my God. Well, there's an old saying. Back then, anyway, it was like 2% of the United States population believed pro wrestling was totally real. They all lived in Tennessee. And Shauna told me that. And she also said, yeah, well, you're going to get a lot of exposure from this, and that can be a good thing and a bad thing. I was famous. Yeah, I was famous, all right. But it was, God, we did an angle one night. I actually, I was getting so much hate mail. And one night, we had a cage match. I remember, God, it was yesterday. I sat, I wasn't in the cage match. I was underneath the ring. It was, Rampart was winding up a feud with someone, and I was underneath the ring. I stayed underneath.
It was Jesse James.
Okay, Tolliver, yeah.
Yeah.
They were wrapping up a feud, so I was going to be Rampart's next big. This was at the beginning of the feud when I was going to. So, I went underneath the ring in the afternoon. I spent hours underneath that freaking ring. We had a soft spot there where I could push up, hack my way through with a machete, and during their match, that's what I did. I hacked my way through, came up from under the ring in a cage, because you're in a cage. No one can get in, no one can get out. But I was underneath the ring, so that's how I got in. And Tolliver and I commenced to beating the crap, quote unquote, out of Rampart. And the fans were going insane. And I'm going, oh my God, we're going to have another Pueblo here. We're going to have a riot. Fans were already starting to hop over the barriers, and the cops can't, I love the security in Memphis. I mean, they were good, but they weren't. I mean, you can't, when a mob of, I think it was like 10,000 or something, 12,000, I forget what it roughly the whole, 12,000 people want to come at you, they're going to come at you. And I was thanking the gods for the cage, because I was protected, we were protected from the crowd. It wasn't like protecting us wrestlers from other wrestlers jumping in, protecting us from the crowd. And it was crazy. And so I said, and Billy's like, I guess I better come back, boys. And I'm like, yeah, no shit. So he came back and he clotheslined us and basically neutralized us, made his comeback. And then basically kind of like, it was surreal. He kind of like waved to the fans and, okay, that's all, folks. Show's over, and they kind of filed out. I think I wrote like lemmings, kind of filed out of the arena. It was a bit scary, and it was going to get a lot scarier.
So speaking of fans, didn't you have a fan stop you?
Oh well, let me just cancel this out. Hold on one second. Sorry about that.
Oh, it's okay. So, getting back to what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
So you mentioned fans. So I believe you did have a fan stalk you and try to kill you, right?
Yeah. Okay. This is one of those things. Kind of like it was easier for me to write about than it is to talk about. But I can say I came home from one night. I was sketching. I sketch. That was one of the things I do, and that'll come into play. But I was back from sketching one night. I used to go over this bridge and then sketch these fields. I did that for relaxation and to kind of come down from the wild man character. Even though I was still living my gimmick as wild man, a wild, crazy guy. It was nice to get these moments of breaks. So anyway, I came home one night and it was a Sunday, and this woman's outside by the mailboxes, and she has a knife, and she's like, "You're evil. You need to die." I mean, I looked into her eyes and she was gone. I mean, she was insane. I neutralized, I got her down, I was able to, grapple with her. Anyway, she tried to kill me, yes. Cops came, and she was insane. She had been in mental institutions. And after that, actually, that was what led me. She had me questioning my own sanity, because it was weird. She was searching for something in pro wrestling. Arguably, she was searching for the same thing I was searching for. She was searching for something to believe in, and she believed so much that she tried to kill me. As a result of that was directly related to the cage match, because I come up from I had beaten up her hero. So I was an evil man. I was evil. I was a wild man. And so anyway, that was what led to me turning face. It's somewhere in the book, but that's pretty much in a nutshell. It's weird.
So when were you contacted by the World Wrestling Organization, the WWO?
They contacted me actually it was about 3 weeks, month after this woman tried to kill me. because I was big news. I mean, I was famous in Memphis at the time and all that. So they contacted me and they called me and said they would fly me up on a Sunday because that's my day off and have me back, fly me up first class, have me back by Monday. You know, do my dates and all that to make my dates. And I said okay.
All right. So World Wrestling Organization WWO. What were your first impressions when you met Thomas Rocker?
Well, they fly you up. What happens is you get flown up first class. A limousine picks you up at the airport, and they take you to what's called the Crystal Ship, which is where their offices are. It's a cool building. It looks really cool. It's in New York, and Thomas Rocker, intimidating. He's the kind of guy that doesn't have to say please very often, you know, and very polished, very suave, and I mean. You know, in spite of all that's gone down, both good and bad, with me and the WWO, I have immense respect for Thomas Rocker. Thomas Rocker Jr. revolutionized the wrestling business. He took it from, you know, the traveling carnival shows, popcorn circus, blah blah blah, blah to a publicly traded, you know, situation, to a corporation, if you will, and to a big business, to a huge, you know, billion-dollar business.
What could you tell us about Chuck the Stud Beastie?
That's what happened. All right, that's what happened with Chuck was, well, Rock Art brought him in that day. Chuck the Stud Beastie. Okay. You know, this is a hard topic for me to kind of address, but he had always been like, even though the American Dream, Sonny Logan was the champion, and blah blah blah. Chuck Beastie had always kind of been like the guy. It's kind of, you know, like a father figure. Like he was the one I identified most with. Like he was the one I imagined in my daydreams as a 15-year-old fatherless kid. He's the one I imagined like had an affair with my mom and was my real father or something. You know what I mean? Chuck the Stud Beastie was that guy. He was the guy I most wanted to emulate and, you know, get close to. And so that day at the Crystal Ship, Thomas and I were going out for lunch, and Chuck the Stud Beastie happened to be in the office. And he came along with us to lunch, and I'm in awe. I was, you know, here I am, a 20-something-year-old kid meeting his idol, and, you know, it'd be like a musician coming up and meeting Elvis, you know, that kind of thing. It was, anyway, so we all went to lunch, and Chuck just happened to be there. Like I said, I'd find out later that there was not just a random occurrence. But anyway, so we get to lunch. Three of us are there, and that's when Thomas brought up Rand Staffer. And Rand Staffer was the guy. He was from Canada, and he had a hockey gimmick. And he would, you know, come out in a goalie mask and hockey stick and all that kind of thing. And so I remember, basically, Rand was injuring jobbers, and a jobber was, you know, when you do a job in pro wrestling, you lose. You know, everyone knows that now. I didn't know that back in when I was a fan. We used to call them losers. Oh, God. Anyway, he was injuring jobbers, and this was bad. This was back when basically, you know, WWO was having jobber matches when a superstar would come pin a jobber in 3 minutes, and Staffer was in. He was just known to be kind of a prick, and what Thomas proposed to me was if I came in and I took out Staffer, and I was like, okay. And you understand, I had been in the business. I had wrestled in Memphis. I was getting toughened up. I was on steroids. I was on speed. I was a tough kid, but you know, I was like, take him out. You know, what do you mean? And Thomas was like, you know, do whatever it takes.
So, was there an alternative motive for Thomas telling you this?
Well, there was. As I found out, there was an alternative motive for Chuck Beastie being there, because Chuck Beastie said to me at the lunch, he goes, "Yeah, brother, you know, I know you can do this." And yeah, I was like, "Oh, that did it. Okay, I'm in." And I signed a contract that afternoon with WWO, and then all it remained for me was to go back and finish my dates in Memphis, and. Well, that turned out to be quite a story.